Today, we're going to be climbing a whole bunch of V4s and breaking down the techniques that you'll need to send them. We'll go through a little bit of footwork, body positioning, and all the subtle techniques you need in order to do V4s. This yellow V4, you can see, has a few more, maybe worse holds. In this case, they're crimps, but they could be slopers. They could be any kind of hold that's really bad to hold on to. So when you encounter holds like this, you want to be able to optimize what you're doing with your feet and your lower body in order to take some weight and some strain off of your upper body, your hands. So let's take a look at how we're going to climb this V4 using a few more techniques, lower body techniques, footwork, in order to really make this more efficient and easy. So right away, I do have to grab these two. That's just how hard this is, but I'm going to throw a heel hook up on this start hold, and I'm almost like weightless going into this. Same with this next hold. And you really, especially with like a longer boulder with a whole bunch of bad holds coming up, you're definitely going to want to save a little bit of energy. Even this next move, I could try doing a drop knee so that I'm not like throwing my hand up to it. Instead, I'm going as static as possible, using my legs to take off a little bit of that weight. And then I walk them over before I go up for this hand. If I were to keep my feet where they were, again, this hold, I'm like coming into it at a bad angle, my foot slips. So you want to plan your feet before you even plan your hands. And then once you've gotten through all that hard stuff, you're rewarded with a nice jug finish. So next we're going to do this green V4. So this guy is going to demonstrate something very fundamental, I think, in climbing. You'll see it from, V3s, V4s, all the way up to, V10, 11, 12. And this is going to be the layback. So I'm going to hop right on this V4 and I'll explain to you as we go. So our first layback comes right at the beginning. It's this hold right here. So this hold, there's not much to hold on to. It's quite flat. I can't really, like if I were to kind of get too far to the right of it, I would fall, right? There's nothing really helping me hold on to it if I'm on the other side of it. So I can only be on the left side of this hold. So there's a couple techniques you can employ when you are doing a layback. First, of course, is you need to stay on the left side or whatever side you're laying back on. You're gonna wanna keep a relaxed arm because if you're too bent, that's all of a sudden you're creeping up on just being a little too far to the right on it. So staying back will allow you to kind of move your feet and just stay as far away from the hole as possible, right? So I'm gonna keep laying back on this. I'm gonna move my feet. Then we're gonna encounter another layback. And I need to get my left hand on this one. So again, I don't wanna pull too much. I wanna stay as straight as possible. I'm almost gonna twist my arm to go grab that one. And then this is more like the crux of the boulder, I think, here. I'm gonna sneak my foot through to keep that layback. I'm just gonna keeping strong, like lengthened arms. And then finally we're out of the layback. And I might as well just finish this boulder up right here. So we can contrast this when I don't lay back or I try to be a bit too far and pull too much on these holds. So if I try to just kind of pull towards this hand, it's very I actually can't balance. I'm not just throwing myself off the wall. So take a look one more time and I'll show you everything I'm doing to make sure that I'm on the layback on these holds. So of course the first is keeping your arms straight and just leaning back on it, but the second is going to be where you put your feet. So I might try putting my left foot here so I can put my right hip foot here, keep the layback. And then there's two options. I like to go left hand to this. You can also match and go right hand again. And then again, we're gonna wanna be so far and keep those feet in front of us. As soon as your feet are right below you or behind you, that's when you're gonna be falling off your layback. And then again, we finish the boulder. So next up is gonna be another blue V4. So this one now, we're heading into kind of a gentle overhang. So there's a bit of a different technique you want to be having when you are in a bit of an overhang. So let's take a look at the beginning of this boulder. So instead of foot chips, this boulder has volumes. And volumes are very unique because there's a million places to step on volumes. When it's a foot chip, you really only have one place to step. But this volume's got a lot of options. And especially when you're on an overhang, there is a very specific place that you want to put your feet in order to make the whole climb a lot less strain on your hands and your arms, your back. Everything will be a lot easier if you simply put your feet as far away from the wall as possible at the tip of the volume. So I'll show you what it looks like when I put them closer to the wall, almost up here. And sometimes people will like to put their feet closer to the volume because it feels like you've got bigger surface area. In case it slips, you've got more distance for it to come down, but it is a lot harder. You can see my legs are really crunched up. If I try to have straight arms, I'm too far away from the hold. I have to really throw myself up to this hold in order to get it. So by contrast, if I try to put my feet far away, you can see a little less strain overall. I'm almost stepping completely underneath me. And remember, on an overhang, you'll never be able to step completely underneath because, of course, the wall is angled. But when you put your feet as far away as possible, you can get closer to that. So you can see, as soon as my feet are here, I can have one arm completely straight without there being too much strain, and I can go and aim a little bit easier for the next hold. So the next V4 we're gonna do is gonna be this white one, and it looks pretty straightforward, so I'm just gonna hop right on it. So I spent a little extra time on the wall than maybe I wanted to. And the reason for that is that I didn't take a good look at it before I got on the wall. And specifically, the move where I'm going up to this left hand, I'm cutting feet. I didn't really have a plan for what I was gonna do with my feet after I got on the wall. So you saw me, I threw my foot on the start hold. It's not that great, it's a bit slopey. And of course there's this chip right here. Now it took me a second to get into this position, right foot, left foot. And I realized that's not a good position to be going to the next hold, so then I had to switch feet again, and I'm tiring myself out doing this the whole time. So when, especially on overhang, you're looking at a V4, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have a plan for your feet before you get on the wall, especially knowing that I definitely can't reach that hold with my foot still all the way down here. So I knew my feet were gonna have to come off, but I didn't have a good idea of where they were gonna go after. So by contrast, let's take a look at how simple and efficient it looks when I have a good plan for my feet. I put them exactly where I want to immediately, don't waste any energy, and I'm set up perfectly for the next move. It's as easy as that. So taking a look at this black V4, we can see it's a bit of a jump, and V4 is where you'll start to see a little bit more complex jumps. So this one in particular, you can see we're kind of running on these not great volumes, and then we've got a hand and a big kind of dual tex ball here. So the first thing I'll mention is that when you're climbing around this grade, a good rule of thumb is you want to kind of go where you see chalk. So for example, this dyno, it's sometimes kind of 50-50. Do I want to jump two hands to this jug here? Or is this ball somehow involved and it's kind of like a stab? When you're following chalk, for example, you can see there's a whole bunch of loose chalk on top of this dual tex ball, and that wouldn't be there unless there was someone actually putting their hand on it. So to me, that tells me that people are jumping and stabbing their left hand and grabbing the jug with their right at the same time. So I'll definitely, when I'm looking at the boulder, just kind of from the ground, that's something I'll be looking for. In terms of actually executing this move, this is a great time to take a look at a technique for doing these kinds of run and jump kind of moves. So obviously we don't really have a great foot to launch off of. It's sort of a slopey volume, and there's another big volume there. So when you're jumping, you don't want to just kind of jump from this position because it's kind of an awkward foot. It's a little bit slippery. You can see my feet are sometimes slipping off of this. Instead, what we're gonna be doing is kind of using our legs momentum to kind of thrust it this way, and then you're going to step and then jump again. So it's sort of a two-part move, and there's a little bit of technique that goes along with this. So first, I will demonstrate the technique, and then I'll show you kind of what goes into this movement. Okay, so hopefully you saw it when I was doing it there. So when I first walked up to start this move, I'm definitely eyeing up the two holds, right? We're gonna try to aim mostly for the right hand. That's gonna be the most important one. And then of course you wanna be stabbing that left hand down. So when I first get on the wall, I'm gonna make sure I know where I'm going for sure. So I see the hands and I know what I'm doing. Then I know that I have to swing my foot. So what I'm gonna do, and you can take a couple runs at it, like you can kind of jump and then kind of grab your bearings, do it again. But in general, you only really need one good push. And as you push, you're gonna have a moment where you kind of pause. And in that moment, you're gonna take a second to now get your leg to kind of come around and in towards the wall, while also kind of kicking it and getting a little bit of momentum. So you can see when I wind up for this move, I'm eyeing it down, I move my foot, and then I twist it in while simultaneously sort of kicking it towards the wall. If you don't do this kind of inwards kick, you can end up kind of jumping almost away from the wall and not towards your hands. So if you're too far away from the wall, and especially when you're trying to do a hand stab, the stab is not gonna really help you because you're gonna be so far away, it's almost gonna be doing nothing, and then you're gonna be so far away from the other hand. So you can see what happens if I don't kick my leg inwards, what happens to my trajectory. Like I'm basically like launching away from the wall. So you definitely always want to get that inwards movement to do it. And of course, like it can be done many ways, right? You can stab it, you can get two hands to this move. And that's what's great about V4. Oftentimes there are a few different ways to do it, and there's maybe some holds you don't want or don't need to use, and you can kind of play around a little bit more, a bit more leeway than some of the higher grades. This red V4 is gonna have a lot of foot chips, a lot of hand, and is really long. So this is gonna have a lot of different movements going on between your upper body and your lower body. So it's important that we understand where our feet can go and where we want them to be in order to do different moves. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you can see right away, I'm moving my feet almost every time I move my hands. I want them on a different spot, whether it's just plain on the wall or on a different foot chip. But there's gonna come a point where your feet are in an okay position and you can reach the next hold. What you don't wanna do is keep reaching. Even though you can reach a hold, sometimes it's actually setting you up better for the rest of the boulder to move your feet around first to reach the hold. A lot of times, I'll see climbers kind of leave their feet behind. So I'll set the heel hook and I'll reach. And my feet are now a little too far to the right. And now I'm not set up very well. I can't reach this next one. But if I had just moved my feet first, all of a sudden I've got this nice chip to push off of. And I can reach up to this left hand a lot easier. So in short, basically you don't want to leave your feet behind. If you're going to the left, set your feet up to be ready to move to the left. And don't just leave them behind when you know you can reach holds. All right, so that's the video for today. I hope you learned a lot about V4, and we'll catch you in the next one.